Friend told me that to get over my past, I had to bring it out into the light and then let it go. Well, this is my past. This is how I'm letting it go. I'm going to have to read this because it was involved when I wrote it. To just actually say it out loud was really hard. Hey, Mom. This is why I'm broken. From the time I can remember, you have always told me the story about how you did everything you could not to become pregnant with me, even explaining to a child what an IUD was, and that you'd seen a doctor to get one, but that I was born anyways. And then it would lead into the story about how the doctor, knowing you were having bad times, offered to keep me because I was such a beautiful baby. But you'd explain then I was yours and you had to keep me. I wish you could know how many times I'd wished you'd given me to him. That along with other clues, I came to the conclusion at a young age that I must have been conceived in a very bad way for you to have hated me so much that it colored everything we ever had. You never treated me like your other children, and then my being dyslexic only added to my feeling that I had again failed to please you. Jokingly, there was always mention of the heir, the spare, and the princess. I was always left feeling like the person at the end of the parade who follows with a shovel to pick up the shit everyone leaves behind. I tried to convince myself I was making it up, that I was just oversensitive or seeing things, but in all kinds of ways it kept being shown to me, and I tried to find excuses for each situation, till, as you know, I found it better for me to just leave you with your loved ones. You're still not seeing it, are you? There was a time you told me that I was responsible for paying you back for everything you'd given me and the others, meaning my siblings. That my room was your room and that you and Dad allowed me to dwell in it. When I did get angry, you would shame me, saying I was going to weep tears of blood at your funeral because I'd miss you so much. But how could I weep for someone who stood in front of the stairs as my sister slammed her fist down on top of my head so hard that I found myself on the stairs stunned, as she ran and locked herself in the bathroom, and I looked down to see you watching the whole thing. But instead of speaking to her, you looked me straight in the eye, turned, and walked away. When I was working part-time, going to school full-time, and helping you with the house, and you mentioned that I should pick up after my sister too. Nancy, who at the time was working part-time and going out to bars full-time, I had the courage to say no for once, and you told me I was selfish and jealous of her. It was a move that helped me to see I had to get away from you. Then, to my face, you mentioned that I was your poteau de vieillesse, your leaning post for your old age. And seeing I understood exactly what you meant, you tried to convince me it didn't mean what I thought it did. Being told that helping you clean the house and running errands for you wasn't enough and that I should start cooking meals for you as well scared me into seeing that this was not my life. It was the one you'd chosen to let me have because it wouldn't really be anything like the others were. I tried to run away at 17 when you kicked Nancy out the first time, but didn't know how, and my Groundhog's Day continued for years. I thought to join the army to get away from you, but I made the mistake of mentioning my idea to you. At once you said it was a stupid idea, and that I should stay home and help you around the house till I could find a good job. But when was I allowed to go out and find one? When I had to stay and help you. I thought returning to school would help me find a way to get a job and get out. I had outstanding grades. I earned a place on the honor roll every semester that I was at Dawson. And you and Dad encouraged me for the first time ever by helping me pay for my studies during the final 2 semesters. I was chosen for the fine arts program from 500 people, only to have you both decide that you no longer wanted to support my studies, and I had to turn down the opportunity. Not unlike the first time you'd built me up like this, and later knocked me down. The design school I was going to after high school was another time you've offered support and encouragement just to change your mind and knock me down emotionally and crush me so I'd stay in your control completely. It was a cycle I lived often with you and Dad. It was often what made me, even now, seek boring and uneventful things to keep me on a steady, non-emotional path, fearing the never-ending roller coaster of being built up only to get knocked down that I spent with you. The second time I tried to leave, Dad came home and caught me with my bags and dragged me back into the house, where he smacked me across the face and threatened to kill me if I ever left him, probably because he'd have been left alone with you. And you came and told him to let me go, that I had nothing and nowhere to go and I'd be back. He sent me to my room. Yeah, 24. I was so scared. I was ordered to my room and I went, where you eventually came and boasted that you knew I wouldn't have really gone, but that Dad was still scared, that if I'd left you'd never see me again. You were so sure you were right, and I told you. It looks like we now know who knows me best. You assumed I was agreeing it was you, but it wasn't. It was him. I would have died, killed myself before ever going back to you. The social workers I met to learn how to find a job were the first people I ever told about my life with you and Dad. At 29, they asked to meet with you. You came and they mentioned, among other things, that I had that if I had a job, I would in time want to move out and make a life for myself. You told them you might be able to help me with some older things, like furniture you could give me to help me out, completely twisting what they were asking. How would you help me to move out emotionally? But you were just so nice with them. I went in the next day apologizing that I must have over-dramatized what I was going through. But all three stopped me and said I wasn't seeing things. That eventually everything I had said had been true. They were the first to believe and reassure me that I wasn't crazy. My whole life wasn't just made up in my head. It's really happened to me. The next was the therapist I saw, Dr. Gold. Because I was so accepting of being trans male, we moved on to talking about my life, to fill my time that the government said I needed to see a therapist to pass transitioning requirements. She also asked to then meet you and Dad. Her conclusion was, in her own words, "You've been verbally and mentally abused your whole life. Anyone going into your situation would have committed suicide within 2 years. The only thing I can say to you is that you should move away and not tell anyone where you're going. But I know you won't. You want too much to have the love and approval the others have, and you'll keep trying to get it, but you never will." It took me over 10 years, Dad passing away, and then you and Warren deciding I didn't need to be part of your 75th birthday, to drive home what I'd been repeatedly told by the therapist, social workers, caring friends. You got angry, said threats, and many other things to try and make me return to you when I finally cut all ties. You wanted me back in your control, but I was determined I'd never give you that power over me again. When I weakened, I remember you telling me that I couldn't go to my aunt's funeral because I'd distract everyone from it. Of the time also that my other aunt called for Christmas and asked about the family, and you started telling her how Kim is doing well 7 years after I transitioned into Owen. The Christmas, no, the year you spent telling about how your first year on your pension you wanted to offer your loved ones the best Christmas you could. Then, when I was doing everything you said, you told me I couldn't have clothes because to replace the worn out things I had would take away from the Christmas fund you were building. Then you revised your plan in front of me, out loud. I'd have called it your master plan because I heard it so many times. If I wanted pants that didn't have holes in them, or zigzag stitching on the knees or on the backside, or just something that wasn't completely worn out. You tell me, oh, but Christmas is coming and I want to make sure everyone has something special. Derek, I want to have a VCR or a DVD player. Warren has this tool for his compressor that he wants. Dom needs a CD burner. Dad, I want to get him some new clothes. Nancy's going to be coming. I want to take her for a shopping trip. Every time you never mentioned me, but why would you tell me what you planned for me as you did the others? For months, I must have heard your plan more than a few times, till the day you were stressed over which Derek would want more, the VCR or the DVD. I said you should just call and ask him since you were so concerned about getting him the right gift. You didn't acknowledge my suggestion in any way, as often happens with the solutions I've come up with to solve people's problems, but even as I was still in the kitchen, you called him, asked, and then after he told you he'd like the DVD, you mentioned the master plan you had for Christmas to him, listing your gift choices yet again. Only this time you paused, as he must have asked you what I was getting straight out, and you told him. Again, I quote you directly. Oh well, she lives here. I could never get you to admit this happened. When I did mention it, but does going to the natural food store to smell perfumes, which make me ill, sound familiar? And you telling me that since I didn't want any of them, that I wasn't getting anything because that's what you planned on getting me for Christmas? So that year I got the honor of serving you for another year. When Nancy visited and you started blasting gays for wanting to get married and adopt children, then you looked over at my face and added, oh, but you can because you're different. Nancy had to grab my hand to keep me from answering you, and then pack my things and leave for home. My home. Not yours. My home. The apartment I had finally gotten. That I was staying with you because Nancy didn't want to stay alone in the house with you and Dad. I was doing it for her. She made me stay for her. When I called that day to wish you happy birthday, Warren made a point of saying he'd try to find you because there were so many people at the party. His own way to dig at me that I was not included, that I was being left out. Maybe you weren't in on that part, but you backed him on the point without asking or giving me the opportunity to decide for myself that I could not attend your 71st birthday. When I tried to call back to let you know how hurt I was and that I was done being set aside when I wasn't convenient for you or the family, or wouldn't be embarrassed to be explained to people. I was sad to see how much better I tried to call, but he didn't answer. After that one call, there was no way to reach you. I was sad to see how much better my life became emotionally without you making me dance to your tune anymore. I love you. I do miss you. At times so very much. But I won't ever go back to being treated like that by you or anyone else in my life. So again, I love you. I am trying to forgive you for everything you've done every day. Things I've mentioned and the thousand other slights over my lifetime between us. That this time, for now, I'm also saying goodbye. I'm going to be moving on with my life without you and creating something so completely awesome that I really wish you could have been a part of it. But if you were there, it just would have crashed and burned like everything else you made my life turn into. My life. Finally have one. And this is why I'm broken. But I've been fixing myself. It's 11 years now. 11 years of every day having to look at myself in the mirror and go, I can be better. I can be liked by people, even though my own family only saw me as a means to an end and convenient for them when they decided to take me out of the box that they kept me in. There is no box anymore. I have an entire world to play with and people to meet, and I am going to be one of the happiest, brightest lights anyone will ever meet, because I've been to the depths of hell and I fought my way back and then climbed a mountain. And at the top of that mountain, there's a valley on the other side with my name on it. And I'm going to be packing up my animals and my life, and I'm going there. And you will not be welcome. But I'll still love you. Stay alive.